organize opposition to the company's plan?
So ultimately, it took 2 years, but we actually used Google Earth, the toy, Google Earth, to prove, in fact, that the plan was illegal. It did not even meet the regulatory requirements for being considered, and it stopped the logging, right? And now the land is being considered for permanent protection as open space. So this was like, wow, you know, you can apply technology like this in a very powerful way at the grassroots community level. The Wall Street Journal picked up on it, right? Activists started Googling, and I began being contacted by like hundreds of nonprofits, right? Some of you may even be in this room, right? But Sierra Club and Greenpeace and so on, from all around the world saying, can you teach us what you did? Like, we have the same issue in our community. It may be forest, it may be ocean, it may be human rights issues, disaster response, but how did you import the data into Google Earth? How did you create that animation? How are you presenting as politicians? Can you give us a tutorial and tips and tricks? So first I was emailing them all back, and then I was like, listen, I work at Google now. This doesn't scale. What could we do? So that was the beginning of Google Earth Outreach, and I looked for other fellow crazy Googlers who would donate their 20% time, and Jennifer stepped up. And in fact, Jennifer became our first full-time Googler and really helped me put this whole thing together and get the program launched. And so the idea of Earth Outreach is we have a site, earth.google.com/outreach, which has resources, these tutorials, case studies of successful use by nonprofits across all different kinds of sectors, including ocean, marine issues. We have a grants program of our professional software tools, our professional mapping tools. We do workshops all over the world. So I highly recommend checking it out. And just, you know, some of the, this is just a whirlwind of like Appalachian Top Removal. It's being used because more than 400 mountains have been blown up, losing in some cases 800 vertical feet, which, by the way, does not grow back, right? As much as there's a claim that the site is remediated, whatever that means. And so, you know, taking it through the halls of Congress to get co-signers on the Clean Water Bill to stop the dumping of toxic mountaintop removal debris into drinking water creeks. Used in Darfur to take people on a guided tour, literally of the villages that were burnt to the ground that you could see in the satellite imagery. And even George Bush at the time said no one who sees this can deny, you know, can doubt that genocide is what's happening, because more than a million, you know, millions of people all over the internet can actually see it with their own eyes. So that was kind of the theme that we began to realize, that you can take people around the world on a virtual guided tour to places on the planet that may be under threat. You can show what's wrong. You can also show solutions. What if we, for example, Appalachian Voices said, what if we put windmills here instead of blowing up these mountains? And you could show that after a small number of years, you would have generated more energy than what was a one-time energy extraction from the coal, and then from then on it's all gravy. There are elephants that, even as we're sitting here, that are being tracked and protected from poaching using Google Earth. There are time-tagged history of where they've been. Actually, under Kenyan law, elephants are allowed to be destroyed if you can prove that they marauded your crops. So often charges are trumped up against bull elephants that have fantastic, valuable tusks. So Save the Elephants told us that Mountain Bull's life was saved because he was accused of marauding crops, but they were able to prove using Google Earth that on the night in question, he was nowhere near that field. He was exonerated of the alleged crop.
An alibi.
He had a very powerful alibi. The Halo Trust, it's like the oldest, longest-standing organization removing landmines and ordnance devices in the ground after war is over. We don't think about it, but you know, kids can't even walk safely to school across a field without risk of their legs being blown up. So they're using the high-resolution satellite imagery and our Google Earth Pro software to plan, first of all, where they want to do these operations. So the red are showing where there are known mines. And you can see in the imagery, this is 2002, nobody lives there, right? Now we're going to go to 2011, after they've removed the mines, and you can see people have returned. Maybe the second to last example, very surprisingly, in 2007, a Brazilian Amazon Indian chief came to Google. He was the first member of his tribe to go to university. His people are under threat. You can see his territory in Google Earth. It's being invaded illegally by illegal loggers. And he stumbled on Google Earth in an internet cafe, and he saw this, and he said, this is the way we can raise awareness. They had been trying to drive off the invaders using bow and arrow, but it wasn't working anymore. Their tribe is too small. They can't defend their territory. But if they could virtually monitor, and if they could show people this situation, they could raise awareness, they could gain support. So he persuaded us to come down and teach his people how to put themselves on the map, on Google Earth and maps. He made us promise to come back every year, teach them whatever was new. So we went down again in 2009 and taught them Google Android smartphones, which they're now using for vigilance of their territory. They used to try, when we were down there, we literally saw illegal logging trucks laden with mahogany coming out of their territory. There's a truck with a license plate. I'm like, take a photograph, report it. And they're like, they don't believe us. The authorities don't believe us. But now, they use the Android devices, photograph and video, automatically timestamp, date stamp, GPS located, hit submit, it goes on a map, and they can go, well, 1 billion other people around the world are looking at this right now on YouTube. So, so it's actually putting pressure on law enforcement to meet their obligations. They're also using it, as I mentioned, to capture their culture, map historic sites, sacred sites, and it's bridging the elders and the young people. The young people are interviewing the elders to get this information, and it's sort of cool to be sort of we. The other project they're doing is, and this one is quite significant, mapping and measuring the carbon in their trees. They're looking for a sustainable future, right? They have been, in some cases, collaborating with the illegal loggers because they have not had an alternative source of income. If they could be compensated for protecting the forest, that gives them more incentive to protect it themselves.